Well, thank you for coming to my site. I'm so glad that you can spend this Good Friday afternoon with me. I'm PJ here in my studio and in my office, and I was outraged at what I learned about what happened in Tennessee in the state house. And what I'm going to do is play some clips from Amy Goodman's Democracy Now! This is one of the representatives that was disbarred, if you want to say it, because he spoke out in disagreement with most of the Republican legislatures in Tennessee.
Have the Speaker of the House condemn mothers and children and grandmothers and parents and concerned citizens, clergy, lie on them and say that they were violent insurrectionists. And I think that he owes the people of Tennessee an apology. Because at no point was there violence. At no point did we encourage violence. In fact, what we were doing was calling for the end of gun violence that is terrorizing our children day after day after day, and all we offer are moments of silence.
These are words from
It is in that spirit of speaking for my constituents of
Justice Jones as he speaks for his constituents in Tennessee. And also, we're going to hear from the second man that was barred because he spoke out. But just listen to the words. These are words of future great politicians that's speaking out for the people and for justice in this country. I love it.
Being a representative of the people, that I approached this well on last Thursday. Breaking a house rule, but exercising moral obedience to my constitutional responsibility to be a voice for my people, to be a voice for the Tennesseans who you choose not to listen to because of those NRA checks that are so hefty in your campaign funds. There comes a time where people get sick and tired of being sick and tired.
One of the questions that keeps coming back to my mind that I hope maybe you can answer is when you say no action, no peace, what do you mean? What does Representative Jones mean by no peace? Thank you.
Representative Jones.
Thank you. I would invite my colleague from Putnam County to join any protest where that is a very familiar chant that usually goes, no justice, no peace. And I believe the roots of it lie in something that Martin Luther King stated, that true peace is not merely the absence of tension, but it is the presence of justice. That's what I was saying, is that until we act, there will be no peace in our communities. In addition, I would like to read some context about that chant that comes from Jeremiah 6:14. I'll read the New Living Translation. It says, they offer superficial treatments for my people's mortal wound. They give assurances of peace where there is no peace. I'll go to the New International Version. They dress the wound of my people as though it was not serious. Peace, 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 they say, where there is no peace. That's what the chant means, is that we have no peace. And that until we act, there will be no peace for the thousands of children who came here demanding that we act, who are afraid that if they're in school, they will be gunned down because you have passed laws to make it easier to get a gun than it is to get health care in this state. You've passed laws to make it easier to get a gun than it is to vote in this state. And so that there will be no peace in Tennessee until we act on this proliferation of weapons of war in our community. That is the peace I was talking about. That is what I was saying. Representative Williams, thank you for your question.
After his questioning by Republican Ryan Williams, Tennessee Republican lawmakers gave Representative Justin Jones 5 minutes before their vote. This is how he concluded.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, I want to say that you have the power, you have the votes to do what you're going to do today. But I want to let you know that when I came to this well, I was fighting for your children and grandchildren too. to those who here will cast a vote for expulsion, I was fighting for your children too, to live free from the terror of school shootings and mass shootings. When I walked up to this well on last Thursday, I was thinking about the thousands of students who are outside demanding that we do something. In fact, many of their signs said, do something, do something, do something. That was their only ask of us, is to respond to their grief, to respond to a traumatized community. But in response to that, the first action of this body is to expel members for calling for common sense gun legislation. We were calling for a ban of assault weapons, and the response of this body is to assault democracy. This is a historic day for Tennessee, but it may mark a very dark day for Tennessee, because it will signal to the nation that there is no democracy in this state. It will signal to the nation that if it can happen here in Tennessee, it's coming to your state next. And that is why the nation is watching us, what we do here. My prayer to you is that even if you expel me, that you still act to address the crisis of mass shootings. Because if I'm expelled from here, I'll be back out there with the people every week demanding that you act. I pray that we uphold our oath on this floor. Because, colleagues, the world is watching.
Pursuant to Article 2, Section 12 of the Constitution of the State of Tennessee, I hereby declare Representative Justin Jones of the 57th Representative District expelled from the House of Representatives of the 113th Assembly of the State of Tennessee.
That was Speaker Cameron Sexton announcing.
Wow. Now, having looked at all of that, I'm saying, you know what? What in the heck is going on in our country here? What did that young man say that was wrong? Nothing. He's saying, let's look at the bills that are seemingly doing nothing to save our children. He's a young man himself, just 27, 28 years old. He and his friend, that's also there with him, Justin Pearson. That was just Justice Jones, and Pearson is the other guy who were both expelled, and there was a white female that backed him in the protest, but she wasn't expelled, and she pointed out that the reason that she wasn't expelled is because of the color of her skin, because she was white. And we are now confronted with these kinds of situations in our nation, all around us, and that's where we are today. Here on this Good Friday, as we look at the holiday celebrations, going out to dinner, having fun, being around our family and friends, our nation is confronted yet and still with this kind of bigotry that's going on. Cast your concerns on the lives of these two young men, because just as my picture behind me on the wall displays some other guys that challenged this back in my day when I was a young man, I'll show you the picture. I have it here. I keep it in my study because it so reminds me of the bravery of someone that's going to stand for truth. Do you remember that? Do you remember those two guys? Well, that's exactly what I witnessed as history coming back. And I want to commend them on their astuteness, on their bravery, and on their ability to tell the truth. We are living truthfully in perilous times. Now, this is a very important clip, and I'm going to continue to play Democracy's Now report on this. On Democracy Now, it's called A Public Lynching. Justin Jones, a Black Tennessee lawmaker, responds.
The expulsion of Tennessee State Representative Justin Jones from the State House Thursday in a party line vote. Republicans also voted to expel his fellow freshman, another 27-year-old Black Democratic Representative Justin Pearson, who also faced questions as he defended himself. This is part of Representative Pearson's exchange with Republican Representative Andrew Farmer.
That's why you're standing there, because of that temper tantrum that day, for that yearning to have attention. That's what you wanted. Well, you're getting it now. So I just advise you, if you want to conduct business in this house, file a bill. Be recognized, stand there and present it, and pass it. All you got to do is pass a bill.
Representative Pearson.
Now, you all heard that. How many of you would want to be spoken to that way? How many of you want to be spoken to that way? We're not talking about politics. We're not talking about even gun violence. How many of you would want to be spoken to that way? The reason that I believe the sponsor of this legislation, of this resolution, spoke that way is because he's comfortable doing it, because there's a decorum that allows it. There's a decorum that allows you to belittle people. We didn't belittle nobody. What we said was that we cannot be beholden to gun lobbyists, to the NRA. We can't be beholden to organizations that don't want to see us make progress on gun violence. We can't be beholden to folks who don't want to see us help save our communities and protect them. But there's something else I think that the sponsor of this resolution has alluded to, and there were a few things here that you said that I want to address. He called a peaceful protest a temper tantrum. Is what's happening outside these doors by Tennesseans who want to see change a temper tantrum? Is Sarah, whose son Noah was at the Covenant School. He survived. He's 5 years old. And she showed up here demanding that we do something about gun violence. Is that a temper tantrum? Is elevating our voices for justice or change a temper tantrum? But there's something in the decorum of this body that makes it okay to say that folks who are exercising their First Amendment rights to speak up for the hundreds of thousands of people collectively that we represent, there's something in the decorum of this body that says it's okay to call that a temper tantrum, to call people we disagree with on the issues, to say that all they want is attention. But I'll tell you what, I don't personally want attention. What I want is attention on the issue of gun violence. But instead, we're here with the resolution you put up talking about expelling me for advocating for ending gun violence in the state of Tennessee. I'd much rather be talking with you about legislation to protect Shelby County and to protect our communities than talking about why we don't deserve to have our representation lost because we came to the house saying we've got to do something. That's what I would like to be doing. And so you brought attention or tried to bring attention to me, but I want to turn the attention to the people. The people who will never be able to throw a temper tantrum for gun violence. You know, the Larry Thorns, the Catherine Kuntzes, the Mike Hills, the Cynthia Peaks, the Evelyn Decaus, the Haley Scruggs, the William Kennys, who will never have a chance to throw what you call a temper tantrum. for justice, for gun reform, for the ending of gun violence. They'll never have a chance because we haven't taken our oath seriously, because we don't take people who we disagree with seriously. We tell them, you just are throwing a temper tantrum.
Ultimately, Tennessee Republicans voted to expel Democratic Representative Justin Pearson
So
from
they
the House
did.
as well. At one point during his final remarks, the official TV feed for the Tennessee House continued to wrongly identify him as his colleague, Justin Jones, as he was giving his final statement. Pearson ended by saying the struggle had just begun.
Oh, we have good news, folks. We've got good news that Sunday always comes. Resurrection is a promise, and it is a prophecy. It's a prophecy that came out of the cotton fields. It's a prophecy that came out of the lynching tree. It's a prophecy that still lives in each and every one of us in order to make the state of Tennessee the place that it ought to be. And so I've still got hope because I know we are still here and we will never quit.
Ooh, I love that kind of. I love that. I love that. I love that. Man, it is amazing that God can bring forth that kind of fervency, that kind of power, that kind of absolutism, if you will, to satisfy my heart that justice still prevails in the minds of many African Americans and brilliant young men as they are. I'm just playing the audio and showing you what I found on my cell phone. Now, let's continue. Ooh.
During the votes, thousands of supporters rallied in the halls of the state capitol and outside when a reporter asked Democratic Representative Gloria Johnson why she thought there was a difference between her outcome. She was not expelled, but her colleagues were. This was her response.
I will answer your question. It might have to do with the color of our skin.
Representative Gloria Johnson was a teacher at Central High School in Knoxville that faced a school shooting more than a decade ago. At the end of the night, the lawmakers, now known as the Tennessee Three, stood together again, and Johnson vowed to work to get her expelled colleagues back in the House.
And I just cannot say enough about how proud I am always and forever to stand with these two brilliant young men who connect with their community, who really listen and understand the voters in their districts and across this state, who can tell everybody in the most powerful way. They spoke to our members. They won't admit it, I don't think, but they spoke to those hearts. I could see it on faces.
Yeah.
But still.
She's right. She's right. And you know what? We have to admit that we are living in these times when ridiculousness has taken over in the minds of our politicians and in the minds of many people that govern in our particular said communities. What we must do is we must get behind these young men in a prayerful way and to pray that their lives will be sustained and that they will be able to retain that kind of fervency. I noticed in one part of the clip that you had a large amount of African American legislators standing behind them, but those are the children speaking. Those are the youngest ones. They have a boldness that uh, we had back in the 60s and 70s, years ago. And I can tell you, as a grandfather, I can tell you that that kind of politic is very popular to me. I just thought that I'd come and give you a Good Friday synopsis of what's going on in my world today. And I would hope that you would have a fantastic, what can I call it? A fantastic holiday weekend. I'd like to read something to you from a book that I have in my library from the ethics that I used to teach years ago. I was looking at a definition in chapter 2 of this book, and it's called Is Happiness All That Matters? Because you may say, well, John, is it about those boys seeking happiness? Don't call them boys, they're men. They are the men of the future of my community that's going to be speaking for my community. And often I said to God, as I was going through my surgeries and my illnesses and all that, is when will all of this end? It's not going to end until we come around to it. I want to read to you. It says the paradox of hedonism. Check out what it says. If something always makes us better off, then it seems reasonable to try hard to acquire it. We try to acquire it with happiness, of course. However, this completely backfires for those who really try hard to make themselves happier, almost never succeed. See, you can't make yourself happy. Justice is a thing that secures our happiness in an honest way. That's very, very important. And talks about the paradox of hedonism here. And I love this little section here. It says, we can turn this distressing vignette and its lessons into an argument designed to refute hedonism. Let's call it the paradox of hedonism argument. Now, how does he address the paradox of hedonism argument? Try to study along with me. And this takes me back to when I used to teach this philosophy in the classroom. And it starts off number one. If happiness is the only thing that directly makes us better off, then it is rational to single-mindedly pursue it. That's number one. Number two, it isn't rational to do that. Therefore, the conclusion, happiness isn't the only thing that directly makes us better off. You see, and that is happening on an individual scale, and that's why it's a paradox. Some of you are not happy because of this report that I just showed. Some of you may look at this and say, these youngsters are out of line. They disrupted the House meeting with loud speakers and everything. They were trying to make a point. They're young. I know it may be rude and thing to do that, but to expel them from the House because they're speaking loud to make you see it, that's the way this generation communicates. You can't hold them into a box. You can't do that. That is not going to happen. Now, it's going to be interesting to watch and see how this all plays out in when we look at the archives of history after we've given it a lot of time. Just thought that I'd key in on this Good Friday day, and so that you can have something to talk about over the Easter meal, okay? Thank you for coming to my website.